taste of doubt, but it won't stay. The future's ours, we're paving the way. Power in numbers, unyielding we fight. Carving our name in history's light. We're taking it back, loud and clear. No hiding shadows, no frozen fear. Take a knee, take a stand, no divide. Together we rise, no need to hide. No need to hide. We're taking it back, loud and clear. No hiding shadows, no frozen fear. Take a knee, take a stand, no divide. Together we rise, no need to hide. No need to hide. No need to hide.
episode, Taking It Back. This is in light of the female fencer who took a knee. And we've already had Riley Gaines, some elementary school student, middle school students, and several others are starting to jump on board with we have to take a stand. We have to take a knee. We have to take a stand on our rights because they are being eliminated. And, Donald Trump signing the executive order was a big deal. But the backlash that is coming on this woman who took a knee for fencing is, in my opinion, extremely frustrating and problematic in a sense that we have empowered women over the years. We've come a long way. We've done so many things to get our rights and to be in men's only workspaces, and we never took over in the aspect of pretending to be men to do it. We just stood our ground as women and showed that we had the ability to do it. Now, as a woman, I'm not a feminist and I have my beliefs on certain parts of that. Like, I don't necessarily think that it's the smartest thing to have different standards for women if you're going to be in a combat role. I'm not necessarily against women being in combat. I'm not necessarily against women being in a special forces type of thing, but I don't think there should be separate standards. I think that if they can't meet because if they can meet the full standards as a male can in that environment, then they would probably do just as well. However, when it comes to women's sports, that's what we're talking about today is women's sports is primarily the topic. But when you come to that part of it, it is very disconcerting that the legacy media, as well as not everyone in the trans community and not everyone in the LGBTQ community, because there's an awful lot of them standing up for it. Caitlyn Jenner, for one, is standing up for Title IX and saying that this shouldn't be happening because there is a biological difference between males and females. If there weren't, then there's no way that a long jumper could beat the best female by 8 feet. It's inches usually. You can't, when Riley Gaines was talking about the fact that in swimming is generally microseconds. That's why the timer clocks are in microseconds, because the meet will be determined based on microseconds, not seconds. And being beaten 30 seconds is, it might as well have been a mile. So there's a huge discussion about it. But we are gonna start our show today. I hope you guys like this starting the show with the Dear Margarets. I don't know if you do or don't like that. I hope you do like it, because that's kinda the way I have started to make this, where I think it would be better for it to be started with the Dear Margaret. So I hope you guys like me doing it this way, because Dear Margaret is one segment, but I have been going through the questions, and I have lots and lots of questions that have been being sent to me by people. And so having questions that are sent to me, I have been going through the questions and trying to find questions that are related to the topic, related to actually to the topic I'm going to discuss that day. And I think because of that, it makes it a little bit easier, so that I can make sure to um, have it relatable to the topic that I'm talking about. So, with that, I am going to start with my Dear Margaret segment. And I have to come up with a little video or something to go with it, but I don't have that yet. So, it's just the song.
Dear Margaret's here, let's dive right in. Bring your questions, let's begin. Life's a real maze. We'll help you with your coping. Dealing with life in this rat race. Honest thoughts, no sugarcoating.
Tell us your tales, your woes, your gripes. No fluff, no bows, just real life types. Sign it clever, let your pen take flight. We'll serve the truth, sharp and bright.
Send us a query, take a lead. No hidden rules, no secrets to keep. Anonymous wisdom that cuts so deep. Dear Margaret's advice you'll want to reap. But in the end, let's admit, we all really don't care, Margaret.
So if anybody's wondering where that came from, I wrote that to be a little jingle for this segment of the show. And I wrote that because of when JD Vance had his meeting with a reporter, and she was talking about the Venezuela gangs in while they were discussing the gangs in Aurora, Colorado, and I guess in New York too. But she said, well, they talked to the mayor, and it was only one or two problems. He's like, one or two, it doesn't matter. I don't want these people in my country. And she's arguing with him, and he's like, I really don't care, Margaret. So I really liked that. So that's why I call this segment Dear Margaret instead of Dear Abby, because I can't steal that. That's probably trademarked by now. I mean, they still do Dear Abby. Did anybody know that? They really do still do Dear Abby. But obviously it's not the same one because she's long gone, but they still do a Dear Margaret. I think it's in the New York Times or something like that. But I think it's pretty cool. So I started this Dear Margaret segment. So if you have any questions that you would like to submit to me, you can email them to Dear Marge, DEARMARG at Gurl TauX, GURLTAUX.com. I would really love to hear from you. If not, you can join our Facebook group, Gurl TauX, GURLTAUX, and that's because we're going to talk about it. Okay. So here's the first one that we're gonna read here. Dear Margaret, I'm a 34-year-old software engineer who just landed a big promotion after years of grinding, but now my male coworkers keep joking I only got it because of diversity quotas. It's eating at me. I know I'm damn good, but I'm scared to call them out and look like the angry woman. How do I own my power without letting their nonsense dim my shine? Coder Queen crashing the boys club. Well, I have to say that um in most of those aspects they're probably feeling inadequate. Yes, there is men that that will say that that's the only reason. Um, and you can stand up and say it's because I'm damn good at my job. Now, I have a similar situation years and years ago. Um, when I left New Jersey and I went back to Nevada, I did not have a job, but I owned a construction company in New Jersey, and we did mostly gutters and fascia soffit, some roofing. Um, but I owned it and I started it because of my ex-husband who was a loser and couldn't keep a job. But so I started this business and it turned out to be a very successful business because I did run it and I made it very well. Well, I left all that and I got rid of everything and I moved back home to Nevada. Um, I mean, I'm from California, but my home is Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, California, and it also borders Lake Tahoe, Nevada. So, I went back to Nevada to Reno, and when I got there, I needed to have a job. So there was a HVAC company that was hiring, and they had it on their little sign outside of their building, big, huge, kind of almost like a billboard, but like the ones that they do at businesses where they put the signs out and they can change them every so often. Um, so I saw it and it said gutter installer needed. So I was like, well, that's what my company did in New Jersey. So let me apply for it. So I applied for the job and I got called in for the interview. And I kid you not, when I came in for the interview, the guy was like, "Oh, I thought Tori was a guy and I didn't realize you were a girl." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm a girl." And he asked if I knew anything. And I answered questions. And then actually went in and got a pair of snips and a piece of aluminum material and said, what would you do if you had a spot on a roof that you couldn't really put a regular gutter? And I was like, well, I would put a scupper. So I stood there with the pair of snips and I cut out the metal and formed it. And I said, if you have a break in the shop, we can go break this so that I can fold it and turn it. And I literally handmade a scupper. And he was like, "Wow, okay, that was pretty good." And then, he said, "Well, do you have tools?" And of course, I'm like, "This is ridiculous. Do I have tools?" Now, I didn't know how to use those snips because I was trying to, cut it backwards. Um, but, and you start to get a little bit insulted, but at the same time, like, they're used to men. Okay, I'm gonna give you that. And I did enough time in law enforcement and the military to know how to handle men really. And so I said, "Well, my mom said I could use her Black& Decker drill. Uh, is that okay?" And he just looked at me. I said, "No, I have my own tools. I have my own tool belt." Now, I played up the woman part of it. I came to the job with my hair in pigtails. I wore pink bandanas, purple bandanas. I wore shirts that had like I had a dark green shirt, but in pink writing it said satisfaction guaranteed. I All American Gutter Girl, and it had it had bowling pins. So I played up on it for sure. And I was damn good at my job. I was really good at my job. And within like 6 weeks, he put me in a lead position. 6 weeks later, I was put in the foreman position. 6 weeks after that, the president of the company made me in charge of the entire metal department of that company. They did other things besides HVAC, obviously. And, when I got the lead on the truck and I became the foreman of the team, um, I was getting all sorts of comments, all sorts of men saying hateful things and mean things, and they'd watch by and go, "Don't forget your knee pads," and all sorts of stuff. And, "Good job taking his truck away from him." And I jumped up on the back of the truck and I said, "Hey, I didn't take anything from anyone. It was given to me because you guys slack and you don't do your job. And when somebody does it better than you and is more powerful than you and is more successful than you and has better success rates, you will see them rise. If you're going to be lazy and you're not going to do your job, somebody like me is going to come in and take it from you. You leave it ripe for the taking." I wasn't given anything, and it was short-lived because I proved myself every time I was on the job. I was better than the Now, granted, that took a lot because I had to be better than they were. There was actually a picture once put in the vice president's office of the company, and it was me sitting on a roof, hanging over the top of a roof, screwing a gutter from underneath in my pigtails and braids, holding on for dear life, on a corner. And he had a note underneath of it that said, "When she said it can't be done, then it can't be done." So in the coder game and in the tech game, just remember to be better than them. And if you have solutions, speak up. When they have problems with things, speak up and come up with the solution. And pretty quick, they're going to shut up and they're going to stop. And if they say you've taken it from them, remind them that you didn't take it. You only took what was ripe for the taking. That's the way I would put it. So there is that. Okay, let's go back to the next one. Dear Margaret, I've been coaching a girls' soccer team for years, and I'm noticing a disturbing trend. Young girls apologize for being too competitive or too aggressive. Why are we still telling girls to be humble when boys are praised for the same drive? How do I help them embrace their inner champion without shame? Signed, Grit Over Guilt. Oh, I absolutely like this one because we should never, ever. And I remember there was a time when, you were told, don't pat yourself on the back. Don't look like that person. That, I mean, I'm not saying get a big head and get all about yourself, but at the same time, like, be the person who does the effort and puts the effort in and has that grit. And you want to make sure that you are not shaming them in any way, shape, or form. When they do something powerful or they do something that is aggressive and competitive, I used to say, I'm so competitive, I trip my mama to win. It's okay to be that competitive. Now, I will say I'm paying for it now that I'm older. I've got lots of pains and lots of issues. And especially when I was in the military, I really did compete too much and I was way too aggressive. I even remember one of my DIs, drill instructors, drill sergeants in my basic training. I often intermix those basic training and boot camp. But they actually wrote on, "You're amazing, you're good, you're really great, but you don't have to be too competitive and you don't have to be too aggressive." And I beg to differ because I did some very great things and I was very successful because I was aggressive and I was competitive. And I think if you do it for the right reasons and if you compliment them in the right way and you tell them how strong they are being and how they are going to be able to help others succeed, have success. And you cannot, and there's a way to say, hey, girls, you can't be too competitive or too aggressive to reach the next step. Just don't allow that to be unsportsmanlike or disrespectful. Be humble while you are being aggressive, while you're being competitive. I think that's a good way to hit that. So let's get to the next question here. And remember that all women have different ways of handling things. And when you have a drive to be a champion, you have a drive to be the top person, whether it's in business or in sports, or in a organization, group, you can have people that get upset about the one person who always raises their hand or the one person who always has the answer. So sometimes you also have to learn that humble part of it is sometimes keeping your mouth shut when you do know the answer. Wait a minute until they might look at you and go, "Well, we don't have the answer, do you? Because you always seem to have the answer." Then they're asking for you to jump in there. That's another thing to think about. Let's get back to here. All right, dear Margaret, I'm a former high school track star, now raising two daughters, and I'm torn. One wants to pursue wrestling, and the other wants to quit gymnastics because she says she doesn't look like the girls on Instagram. How do I raise strong daughters in a world obsessed with filters and femininity over function? Signed, Mama with a mean right hook, metaphorically, mostly. Um, I think that's a good one. I think that you should maybe go in, and there are some videos out there on the fakeness of Instagram and social media. There's even a documentary on that, and have them watch that to see what the oh what the reality that's what I'm trying to say. What the reality is versus what what's fake and what's real. So you have to show them what the reality is, because reality is definitely different than most of what we're seeing on social media. Everybody puts their best face forward. And I can't say that's true. Everybody puts their best face forward, or their most important thing that makes everybody feel sorry for them. Like, I just was in the hospital. I did a story about it after the fact, but while I was in the hospital, I did not take any videos. I did not take it. I think I took one picture with my glasses, because my glasses are the meta glasses. So I think I took one picture of my nurse, and I'm not going to put that on anything because she's my nurse, and that's not right for me to take her picture and put it somewhere. But I didn't take pictures of myself in the hospital bed. I didn't take pictures of myself with my oxygen and my IVs and all the machines that were on me, because I had a bunch of stuff attached. I didn't do that. I didn't put that on there. And I have forgotten one thing. I forgot to put on my Rumble to make sure it's actually running. And I also forgot to put on my other lights that make it just a little bit brighter, not so dark in here. So let me get those on. But I didn't do that. And I see there's a lot of people that the minute they have something bad happening, it's like they want the sympathy vote. They want a bunch of people to comment on, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, that's so horrible." And I don't personally do that. Now, it doesn't mean that I haven't. I have in the past. I've done that, where I've put out what is going on, but I don't particularly like doing that. I kind of think that it's self-serving, so to speak. I just don't care for it personally. That's my personal view on it. But it doesn't mean that other people can't. But you need to show them, and like I said, that documentary out there talking about how fake it is. They show how these people have gone on and rented the luxury cars for 5-10 minutes, so that they can show how amazing they are, and that they have all this money, and the Lamborghini or whatever, and the yacht, and the planes, that they're private planes they're flying in. And then you find out that they rented it for 1 hour for a photo shoot. So you can share some of that with them, but you got to remind them that so much fakeness is not reality, and help them to see that they need to have reality in their lives and not fakeness. And then empower them by taking them to see some of the main competitors, like some of the big competitors. Take them to some of those events where they can see what it means when you have success. That would be a good way to do it. Let's get to I think this is our last one. Dear Margaret, why are women who dominate in sports still called masculine or too much? Serena, Rhonda, even Caitlin Clark take heat just for showing up with fire. It's the world still comfortable with powerful women, or are we finally pushing through that outdated stereotype? Sign too strong, too loud, too bad. I think that at a time we were kind of getting after some of these women for this stereotype of being like that. The Ronda Rouseys, you're too manly, and I think this issue that we're having with with males in female sports is kind of sort of helping to fix that somewhat, because we're realizing that if we want strong women, we need strong women to be showing up. We need strong women and powerful women to prove that there are powerful women out there, and that we need to embrace them and support them and prove that those are the ones that aren't women. And I think there's some Ronda Rouseys out there that could give some of these transgender men a a 2-4, old saying. But I think that it would be men that are, trying to be a swimmer, or trying to be a volleyball player, or trying to be a fencer, or trying to be a track athlete, trying to do those things. If they had to beat Ronda Rousey first, it would be a different story. But you take a male boxer up against Ronda Rousey, she's probably going to get beat the crap out of, because in the same fields, I don't think it's fair, because they are generally weaker in those fields. Sorry, let me get this out of my way because it is driving me bananas. I meant to do that the other day and I did not do it. So that's the difference. So now I titled this today, Knees, Titles, and Triumphs. Are we empowering women or erasing them? And I want to, remember that we have to embrace and empower women. Turner, I think her name's Stephanie Turner. I'm not sure if I've got that right or not, but she took a stand by taking a knee. And she took a knee at a recent fencing match. And this is also something that Riley Gaines has done. She finally took a stand, and she is now fighting for Title IX and women's rights. And the issue that I have is there's a combination of this. It's not just in sports, it's in other things too, where they want to call women cisgender. They want to call women feeders. I can't. They want to get rid of the name pregnant. They want to get rid of mom. They want to get rid of women, and they can't even answer what a woman is. By definition, a woman in the dictionary is an adult human female. That's what a woman is. So when you ask somebody, what's a woman? That should be the answer. Period. End of discussion. And I don't care if there are women out there who biologically have something wrong where they can't get pregnant or carry long-term to term. They still have a uterus and ovaries. You do not. So it's not about whether they have something medically wrong that causes them to lose their babies and not be able to carry to term, or that they can't get pregnant at all. If they can't get pregnant at all, quite often they can do IVF or some of the other treatments for getting pregnant. However, they do have a place to carry it. They have a uterus, whereas a male pretending to be a female, and that's what I call it, pretending, cannot carry a child no matter what, no matter how. So we need to remember that. The fact that Stephanie Turner, and yes, it is Stephanie, took a stand by taking a knee. She's 31 years old. She's obviously been competing for a long time. And that is a powerful statement where she said, I am not going to be treated this way. I'm not going to accept this any longer. I'm not going to do it. And we have to remember that it's important for people to stand up for what's right. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And we fell for this. It's our fault that it got to this point. It was kindness and humility that got us to this point. And it got over and over and over. And we allowed that to continue getting worse and worse. And then we got ourselves back into a corner now where we're like, oh my God, now we are so in this that we don't even have the ability to back our way out of it anymore. So I think that's a big and important factor. Let's listen to this broadcast real quick.
A women's fencing match is getting global attention after a female fencer was given the ultimate punishment for refusing to compete against a biological man. USA fencer Stephanie Turner was scheduled to face Redmond Sullivan at the University of Maryland. And this video you're looking at, posted on social media, shows that just as the match was about to begin, Turner took a knee, took off her mask, and forfeited the match in protest. Now, because of that, Turner received a black card. That is the harshest penalty you can get in the sport, and she was disqualified from the event. The video gained more than 1 million views. Turner told Fox News Digital, quote, I looked at the ref and I said, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I am a woman, this is a man, and this is a women's tournament, and I will not fence this individual.
Wow.
Dr. Sapphire, she said that she wouldn't sign up for events when she saw this biological male was on the roster. This time, must have signed up after her. And she said, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to God. If this person shows up to my event and is on my script, I would take a knee, and that would be God's will.
You know, it was very interesting. USA Fencing put out a statement on their trans policy, and in their statement, it essentially said the reason they were including trans athletes is to expand access. But the reality is they're not expanding access. They've always allowed men to compete in fencing as well as women. The reality is these men can't cut it with the other male athletes. So therefore, they are coming into the female sports. And maybe there's well-meaning inclusion that has just morphed into dogma. But this is really just cowardice being manifested as compassion. The reality is there are biological unfairness when you have a biological male competing in women's sports.
I'm going to cut that for 1 second. So, you know, she took a stand saying, I'm not going to compete. And she even said, and I think they bring her on here in just a moment and talk with her. But, you know, she did say in an interview that that she saw who was on the roster prior to the competition. And when she saw that he was going to be on the roster, she had already made a predetermined stand that she was going to take a knee. And I'm going to find her interview here in 1 second, and we'll listen to that. But let's finish listening to what they have to say on this. I like listening to the discussion portions of these.
When it comes to their strength, their bone density, their muscle mass, all of a sudden, this has become completely unfair to female athletes and has taken us back decades and decades of progressive movements trying to get fairness for women athletes.
It's true. And what I found interesting, Emily, is that this was a lifelong Democrat, this woman was. And she said, I changed on this issue alone. She said, I voted red down the ticket this year. It was like waking up to the lies of the mainstream media. And she's not alone. There was a 25-year-old who told the New York Times, I was radicalized because of this issue of biological men in women's sports.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, right? That was a single issue for many voters who, yes, realized they had been indoctrinated by the mainstream media when the reality was so clear when it's facing you and when that person facing you is holding a sword.
That is a big issue too, because like Riley Gaines said, you know, she didn't say anything at the beginning. She didn't say anything when it first started because she didn't want to be the person who said something. The girls, some of them were talking to each other, some of them were upset, some of the girls were changing in the janitor's closet. There were a lot of things happening, but nobody was standing up and saying anything because of fear for retribution. And some of the girls who had said something at one of the universities, they were told, if you don't like this, go seek some counseling. So, it made women in these sports become very fearful of saying anything or speaking up. So it's a big deal that we have someone who does stand up and does say something. And we have to look at the whole entire picture, of course, but it is important for us to have these discussions and have these talks about it. Her losing not just the competition, because she took a knee, she knew she was going to lose that, but her getting a black card and them considering it to be, I think they fell that under bad sportsmanship or something. Listening to some of the other stuff that was out there, I guess 1 or 2 years ago, he literally was on a track and field team with on the female side, while at the exact same time competing as a male in a fencing. How is he male and female at the same time? I guess that's the non-binary.
My mom fenced growing up. She's amazing. She actually got her master's degree from the University of Maryland. And I think about, as you describe the biological differences, it includes as well wingspan, right? And so for a sport that depends on the distance of arms and then at the other end of a sword, that's a big deal. But even bigger is the reaction. You're telling me that who was disqualified was the person who dared to stand up for protecting biological women in sports. Why wasn't that other individual disqualified? This has gone on too far, and I'm not sure why it continues to happen. I didn't think fencing would be included in this, but we've yet to see the full house cleaning that needs to take into account of all of these sports that are letting biological men compete with the women's. And the saddest part is that the person whose future is going to be the most, the potential just eclipsed is that young woman, Sophie.
Well, that's right. The one that's going to be having it affect her career. And the thing is, we had a discussion about it, and I listened to Officer Tatum even talking about it earlier today. If this continues and we don't stop it now while we can, at some point, we are not going to have any women at all that have any records. No women will carry any records. No women will have anything at all. That to me is quite disturbing. The fact that at some point in time, we are not going to have any women that hold any titles. So March 30th was when Stephanie Taylor, she's a fencer, she dropped to her knees rather than duel a trans woman. Riley Gaines cheers as Trump bans males from women's sports. And are we lifting women up, or are we wiping women off the map? This is Gurl TauX, so let's get real. Let's talk about this and let's get real with everything. From Stephanie Taylor's protest to Riley Gaines and Title IX battle and Trump's executive pen, women's sports are at war. They're in a war zone. When women turn into cis women, are we losing ground we've fought decades to claim? I am worried about this myself, and I hope you are too. Today, we're breaking down these moves, celebrating courage, questioning fairness, and asking, what's empowerment worth? And if it erases us? We need to think about this on a very, very large platform. We need to think about this from a huge atmosphere. We can't look at it from here. We have to continue going this way. We have to see outside. We have to see the future, what this future holds. Stephanie Turner, 31. She faced Redmond Sullivan, a trans woman, at the Cherry Blossom Open in Maryland. She took a knee, ditched her mask, and told the ref, I'm a woman. This is a man. This is a women's tournament. I won't fence. And black card, game over. Yep, she was given a black card for doing such a thing. Oh my goodness, her why. Turner planned it after seeing Sullivan's name, calling it a civil rights movement for women. She told Fox, USA Fencing isn't listening to us. Sullivan met with the 2023 policy, 12 months of testosterone suppression, but Turner saw biology, not rules. You have to think about this on that level, that just because they go on hormone treatments does not mean they lose whatever they've already gained and whatever they already have. But is this empowerment? Is taking a knee, standing tall by kneeling, or does it split us further than we already are? Now, me personally, I think that her taking a knee was a huge stance. I think she's going to get an awful lot of support. I think she's going to get an awful lot of people that stand behind her. And let's listen to what she had to say real quick. I want to share this part with you as well, because I like hearing from the actual mouth of the people who say whatever it is that they are doing. I would like to share her words rather than just my own. Let's bring this in real quick and let's hear what she has to say. Whoops. Apparently I have the sound off. Hold on one second. Let me pause that for a second and turn the sound back on. Because it doesn't do any good if we can't hear it, right?
We're interested in a female fencer stands up for fairness in women's sports. She did it by taking a knee and refusing to compete against a biological male at a tournament over the weekend. The referee's response, a black card, the sport's most severe penalty, which means expulsion from the tournament. Let's bring in the athlete at the center of it all, Stephanie Turner. And Stephanie, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So this was an Olympic qualifying event. My understanding of it is this was something that you had prepared all your life for.
I see that he had that wrong, but did you notice something on that? I want to go back real quick. It seemed to me that one of the things that bothered me in that, if you watch that real quick, let's watch this one part right here.
Penalty, which means expulsion from the tournament. Let's bring in the athlete.
Oh, I forgot to transition it real quick.
Penalty, which means expulsion from the tournament. Let's bring in the athlete at the center of it all.
Look how quickly he was to pull that black card out. Now, I'm sure they're handy. I'm sure they always have them handy. But did you think that maybe he was already prepared that she was going to take a knee? They were prepared for any woman that might be competing against this male to take a knee or take a stance saying, I'm not going to do this. He looked awfully prepared and didn't at all seem to listen to anything she had to say in any way, shape, or form. We have to get more people that stand up against this type of thing in order for us to make some headway.
Stephanie Turner. And Stephanie, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So this was an Olympic qualifying event. My understanding of it is this was something that you had prepared all your life for. It wasn't an Olympic qualifying event. I'm sorry. I had heard that this morning.
No, it wasn't.
It was an important event, though. And this is something that you've been preparing for an awfully long time. You decided that you were going to take yourself out of the tournament. What was the thinking in leading up to the decision where you took a knee?
Right. So this was actually a regional tournament held by the USFA at the University of Maryland. So part of my pre-competition ritual is to check the online registration to see who is going to be there and just double check my check-in times. And on the registration list, I saw Redmond Sullivan's name listed there. And I recognized this individual from a previous Redux article that had been written stating that this person was a man who had previously competed on the men's team at Wagner and was now competing as a woman within the USFA. So from that point, I just got really disappointed with the USFA and with this tournament, and I just felt like at a loss. I'd already committed so much money to it and training hours, and I was literally looking forward to this. I do this tournament every year.
Yeah.
I think this may be like my 10th year in a row doing this tournament. And I just got really sad and I started crying because this was like the last thing I wanted to deal with in my.
Now give her some grace, because she's probably not used to being interviewed. She's probably not used to speaking on camera. So she's fumbling a little bit because she's probably nervous. She's probably frustrated. And so let's give her some grace that this video takes a little bit of time to get through. I will pause it occasionally so I don't get copyrighted. But we have to remember that she's not used to probably speaking on camera. She's a fencer, and this is a competition. She said she's done it for 10 years. So this is not something she does on a regular basis. So we need to give her some grace, and she'll get through it.
My competition.
So at one point in the video,
when I
so we
went
see
there,
we see you take a knee, and then the official comes over. What did you say to the official at that point?
So the official came over to me and asked if I was still refusing to fence, and I said yes. Oh, and are you talking about initially,
Yes.
or when I got the black card?
No, initially.
Initially, I told them that I was refusing to fence because this person is a man and I am a woman, and this is a women's tournament, and I refuse to fence on principle.
And then later, right after this, we see your opponent comes over. What did you say to your opponent at that point?
My opponent was a little bit confused, thinking that I was maybe hurt, and I said, no, I am refusing to fence you because I'm a woman and you are a man. I have much love and respect for you, but I will not compete against you.
Wow.
And he responded, okay, well, there's a, yes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sorry, what was his response?
His response was, okay, but there's a member of the board of directors here, and he supports me, and there's a policy that says that I'm a woman and I'm allowed to compete in the women's tournament, and if you do this, you're going to get black carded. And I said, I know.
So here's what USA Fencing said in a statement to Fox News Digital. USA Fencing enacted our current transgender and non-binary athlete policy in 2023. The policy was designed to expand access to the sport of fencing and create inclusive, safe spaces. It goes on to talk more, but this idea about inclusive, safe.
Yeah, this idea of inclusive, safe spaces. Are you kidding me? If it's so predominant and they have this desire to compete, they can gain their own money, they can fundraise, and they can build their own sports. Because the reality is Title IX was built for women to compete against other women, not to compete against men. And when you start having all sorts of men jumping into sports, and like I said, I did a little bit more reviewing on this transgender male, and the reality is, like I said before, he has flip-flopped from male and female competitions several times. He was competing in track as a female and as fencing as a male, and then he wasn't making it in the male fencing when he got to college, so he switched to female. I think there's a problem with that when we have too many of these situations happening and they're taking the trophies from the women, they're taking spots from women. These women who have been competing and have been really, really, really working hard their entire lives to be in a sport, to only be erased or removed by a sudden man that comes in and he decides, I'm going to be a woman. And the fact of the matter is, many of them were competing in male sports, but they weren't good enough and they weren't getting high enough. So then they have transitioned. And there are some pretty shady things behind that. So we also have to look at Riley Gaines, Title IX, and Trump's game changer. Riley Gaines has had a crusade, and she is a swimmer. She she's a swimmer who lost to Leah Thomas in 2022, and I don't understand where the UK part of it is, but anyway, this person flipped from a competitor to just a warrior for women's sports. And losing her trophy to Leah Thomas in 2022, she has been relentless. Title IX for women shot at equality, not men's invasion. Her argument, of course, Gaines cites science. Trans women keep 17 to 30% more leg power than post hormones. She sued the NCAA, testifies in Congress. Biden's Title IX rewrite was illegal. On X, she blasted loopholes like trans rower Juniper Gatton, saying men still steal women's sports. That was a statement by that, and I did see that one, that rower that actually said that. There's also been some of these trans males in high schools that have been mocking the girls about taking their positions and stuff. That to me is disgusting. It's really, really sad that stuff has happened. We have so many positions here where we have not stood our ground long enough and far enough, and it is time for us to continue with this pushing out and what's the word for it? Pushing out and taking it back. We have to take our Title IX back, but we also have to take women's spaces back, not just for Title IX, but for women in quite a few other areas as well. We have to remember that there's more than just Title IX at stake here. There is a lot more involved with that than just one part of it. We have to realize that there are women's spaces in gyms where they're going in the locker rooms. And that's not a competitive position. They're using the equipment out in the gym, doing whatever exercises they want to do, but they're going into the locker rooms, changing in the locker rooms, and that makes women uncomfortable. But it's not okay that women are uncomfortable. We should just be, it is what it is, and take it and keep our mouths shut and don't say anything. Here is Riley Gaines when she was testifying at Capitol Hill.
Title of this hearing implies a much needed discussion. We're likely going to be forced to listen to transphobic bigotry. Forcing a transgender child to choose between living an authentic life and playing a game is cruel. I ask that while we sit through this hearing and hear the hateful misinformation I'm sure is going to come our way, let us not forget that children are at the core of this issue.
There's a place for...
Oh my God. Does that not infuriate you? Standing up for women is not being transphobic. I'm not transphobic speaking about it. I don't care what you want to do, but you cannot invade nor take over anyone's place. You just can't do that. That is not acceptable behavior. Let's listen to Riley.
Everyone to play sports in this country. But unsafe, unfair, and discriminatory practices towards women must stop. Inclusion cannot be prioritized over safety and fairness. And Ranking Member Lee, if my testimony makes me transphobic, then I believe your opening monologue makes you a misogynist.
Well, that was a fiery exchange. That was Riley Gaines going after squad member.
I really like what she had to say there. I mean, that was pretty good. To begin with, um, standing up for this behavior does not make someone transphobic in any way, shape, or form. I don't see that as being transphobic. I don't see that as someone who doesn't like a certain type of people or anyone in general. It's speaking up for the people who have no voice for themselves. So someone has to take the baton and run the race for us, and that we need to rally behind that person. We need to rally behind them so that we can actually stand up for it with her. And we should be rallying behind Riley Gaines, behind Stephanie Turner, behind those middle school girls who stood up. There are a lot of people who are finally having a voice and sharing how they feel about this situation. Let's continue.
Sports. Riley Gaines joins us now. Riley, you called out the Illinois State Women's Cycling Championship because 2 transgender women took first and second place. What can you do about that?
Well, I'll tell you what I think needs to be done about that. I've been saying for a while now, and granted, I didn't always think this. At first, I didn't think women should boycott because I didn't think it's us who should have to compromise. I was waiting for the people in the position to make changes, to do the right thing, but that's a naive thought. But now I do believe women should boycott these events where men are competing, and I've been saying this for the past few months, but it's time it's incentivized. And so after some conversations with some different people, I've decided now that I will personally and happily pay the prize money that a woman were to lose out on. So in this photo here, the girl who placed third behind these 2 men, the prize money she lost out on, if she were to concede and doesn't compete, I will happily pay her the money.
Now, you want to have any woman being asked to compete against a transgender woman drop out, boycott, don't race, don't run. That what you're saying?
I think it's effective. I think that's how we send the message that enough is enough and that we as women aren't going to put up with it anymore. Because right now, what we're being asked to do and what we are doing, what I did at that national championships, is we smiled when we stepped aside and allowed these men onto our podiums. And it's not because we're okay with being discriminated against on the basis of our sex. It's because we're being told to. And as women, of course, we're more emotionally driven. We're more empathetic. We're more likely to be people pleasers. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But guess what? It doesn't make you not compassionate to call out an injustice when you see it.
What do you think of this? The president of an LGBTQ advocacy group says that women should, quote, learn to lose gracefully to transgender competitors. Any response to that?
Well, it's funny because
I have a response to that. We should learn to lose gracefully to men in women's sports, is what you just said. That's the answer to that, is we should learn to lose gracefully to men in women's sports. That, to me, is ridiculous.
Because it's the president of the National Women's Law Center who said that. So it's not even technically an LGBTQ advocacy center. It's a women's center who said that. Yeah. And let it be known that this women's center has not released a statement yet condemning any of the violence going on against the women in the Middle East. But that's besides the point. Yeah. This woman who said that about losing gracefully. First, let me be clear. She was talking to me specifically. I didn't lose to Thomas, the 6'4" man who competed against me at the national championships, which is kind of embarrassing on his part that he couldn't beat me. We tied. So I certainly didn't lose. And secondly, this is coming from a woman who's probably never played a competitive sport in her entire life.
Now, if anybody did not know that was how her race went, she actually is such a profound swimmer that she won the event, really, because Leah Thomas shouldn't have been there. But they literally tied. And those races are done in the milliseconds. And she was tied with Leah Thomas. And when they went to give the trophy, there's a interview you can find with Riley Gaines talking about that. And they gave the trophy to Leah Thomas and said that her trophy would be mailed to her, and that the reason why that they were giving the trophy to Leah Thomas is for optics, because they needed Leah Thomas to have the trophy and be on the stand in order to, have the optics. They didn't give it to Riley. They didn't give it to the both of them and say, "You're both gonna be mailed one." No, they gave it to Leah Thomas and told her, "Sorry, yours will be mailed to you in the mail because we have the optics that we need to have him on camera seen with the trophy." That is what Riley said that she was told, and I believe that 100%.
Well said. Last one for you, real fast. The NCAA considering a proposal that would allow colleges to pay their athletes. What would that do to college sports?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. I will be very interested to see how this
Okay, we're not going to go into the sports paying athletes to play. That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother part of it. The reality is there are many people who have spoken out and stood up for these type of things that are happening. And, oh, I hope I didn't. I think I had that on mute. But I don't know if I had that on mute. I really hope I didn't. I apologize if that was on mute and you didn't hear anything that was said. I might have to replay that part of it again. I totally apologize. So let me back that up just a second, and we'll play just a little bit of it. We're not going to play the whole part that over again. We're just going to play a small segment of that. But it appears that I may have had that on mute for a second. So I do apologize. Sometimes if you mute things, you forget that you have muted it and and unmute it. So I apologize. Let's see where she's at right there one more time.
To transgender competitors. Any response to that?
Well, it's fine.
What do you think of this? The president of an LGBTQ advocacy group says that women should, quote, learn to lose gracefully to transgender competitors. Any response to that?
Well, it's funny because it's the president of the National Women's Law Center who said that. So it's not even technically an LGBTQ advocacy center. It's a women's center who said that. Yeah. And let it be known that this women's center has not released a statement yet condemning any of the violence going on against the women in the Middle East. But that's besides the point. Yep. This woman who said that about losing gracefully. First, let me be clear. She was talking to me specifically. I didn't lose to Thomas, the 6'4" man who competed against me at the national championships, which is kind of embarrassing on his part that he couldn't beat me. We tied. So I certainly didn't lose. And secondly, this is coming from a woman who's probably never played a competitive sport in her entire life.
Well said. Last one.
So then he goes into asking about paying athletes in universities. So that is a huge part of it, is that we have people who are standing up against this type of situation, and they are saying that we have to be the ones that are being nice. We have to be the ones that are holding ourselves back. We have to be the ones to be graceful about it. What is graceful about a man, um, taking trophies away from women? Why is it that women have to be quiet and be, it's back to be seen and not heard type of situation? I think to me, that's part is very, very troublesome in itself, because we should not be seen and not heard. We should not be keeping our mouths shut. And it is not transphobic to speak up against this type of behavior. It's not transphobic. And for those to say that we are transphobic when we are speaking out and speaking up against this type of stuff is, to me, that is a big part of the troublesome thing because that's the narrative that gets spun, and it's what keeps women quiet. That is another aspect. This is Riley Gaines. She held a leaders rally in Washington.
Women's Sports Week, and this past Sunday marked the 52nd anniversary of Title IX. Now some leading female athletes and coaches are set to rally in Washington, centered on the fight for fairness in women's sports. Here to discuss, Riley Gaines, Independent Women's Forum ambassador, host of Outkick's Gaines for Girls, and 12-time All-American NCAA swimmer. Riley, always great to have you on the program. When you look at this, some of the states where the courts have blocked Biden's new Title IX rules, the number is growing from Idaho to Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. Are you surprised that women are in the fight of their lives for fairness in sports?
Yeah, that is something to me myself that's very troublesome, that we're fighting so hard for something that we had fought so hard to gain in the first place, and now we're back to fighting for it all over again.
This moment?
Of course I am. Speaking for me personally, this is never a fight I would have imagined myself in. Really never a fight I would have imagined necessary at all for anyone to be fighting for. It seems as if we are asking for the bare minimum here, which is equal opportunity, privacy in areas of undressing, safety in our sports. The bare minimum. But we have an administration in the White House right now who is actively undermining this, who has abolished Title IX in its original intent. But I feel more hopeful now than I have felt at any point in these.
Now let's remember this happened actually before the election and before Trump took office. So let's remember that.
Past 2 years since I've been involved in this fight, we've seen 26 states ultimately suing the Biden administration and the Department of Education. I don't think we would have seen that 2 years ago. And now 10 states with a preliminary injunction, the 10 states you mentioned, which is great news.
Riley, I know at your rally today, the organizers are asking attendees to sign on to these two letters. One is to President Biden and his administration. The other is to lawmakers up on Capitol Hill. What is in these letters? Break it down for us.
Of course, the message that we are sending loud and clear is enough. We are saying no, we are rolling up our sleeves, and we are saying that we will not continue to be discriminated against on the basis of our sex, which again is everything that Title IX was set to implement 52 years ago. As of this week, it's the anniversary of Title IX. There will be a vote in Congress. There has been a Congressional Review Act introduced by Representative Mary Miller. That's what we're sending this letter to Congress, people signing on, urging their representatives from states all across the nation to support the CRA and again, debunk the most anti-woman, anti-reality pursuit we have seen from this administration thus far.
That to me is the most important thing, is we have to stand up for it because it is very important, extremely important that women band together. Now, remember, Trump took office. We had the election and in November, and then January 20th, Trump took office. And February 5th, 2025, Trump signs keeping men out of women's sports on National Girls and Women's in Sports Day. The war's over, he said, banning males from female categories under Title IX. Non-compliant schools will get no federal cash. I think that was important that he signed the executive order. And can you imagine being at the White House at that time? Trump was at the White House and he signed this executive order. There were many girls, women at this event. They were so full of smiles. They were so excited. They were so happy. They could not keep their smiles from showing. They were so excited in the fact that the new president that had only been in office like 15 days or so came and stood up for these women. They were surrounding the president, and it was just such a sight to see. I have to say I was extremely happy. I kinda smiled, I watched it live, and I was so full of joy for these girls because you see these girls that are around them. Look at this right here. Look at all these girls that are standing there, they're smiling, they're clapping, they're so proud of what's about to happen. Let's watch this real quick. And there's Riley Gaines right behind him.
Thank you very much. This is a nice crowd, isn't it, huh? You've been waiting a long time for this. Yeah. So have I. Actually, it was so ridiculous. But here we are. And this doesn't have to be long. It's just all about common sense. Doesn't have to be long. In a few moments, I'll sign a historic executive order to ban men from competing in women's sports. It's about time.
Look at those smiling faces.
Under the
You could not be a person who sees that and doesn't think, what an incredible moment this must be for these girls.
Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
How weird is it that we have to hear the words, only women's sports will be only for women? I mean, how weird is that we even have to say those words at all in the first place? To me, that seems nonsensical, if that's a word. To me, it just seems a little bit crazy. We're not going to watch this entire thing. If you want to watch this entire thing, you can go and watch. We're just going to listen to a couple more things he has to say.
But before going further, I want to share some very exciting news from our military. After years of shrinking force numbers at levels that nobody has ever seen before, 4 years of this we went through, and missed recruiting targets every single month, it was just announced that in December, the U.S. Army had its single best recruitment in more than 15 years.
Now, I did let that play because there was a reason for that part of it, because we had such a horrible numbers in recruiting. My daughter's boyfriend is a recruiter for the Marine Corps, and they have such a difficult time recruiting because a lot of people just did not want to be in the military anymore because of what is happening with all of these trans people being in, and all this wokeness that was happening. And therefore, because it was so bad, we just didn't want to have a lot of people just didn't want to be in the military anymore because they were so tired of the woke aspect of it and having to take all this training on diversity and this and that and this and that, and that the numbers just kept depleting and depleting. So it's very important that we are getting out of this woke aspect for our military. It's very important that we actually take a stance on our military has got to be strong and powerful to defend us. So that's a big deal. So I did let that play.
Not a good thing to say yes right here. Female athletes have been forced onto the front lines, and men claiming to be girls have stolen more than 3,500 victories. That's a lot. And invaded more than 11,000 competitions designed for women. Last year, a male cyclist posing as a woman competed in the 800-mile Arizona Trail Race, a very big deal in cycling, and obliterated the women's course record by nearly 5.5 hours. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it, huh?
5.5 hours. I mean, again, that's like the one that did the jump, and he beat the women by 8 feet. You can't have people that are doing it at such a high level that there's no misgiving, there's no confusion as to how they did that. There's none at all.
Lifting, broke 2 world records and outlifted his closest female opponent in one event by 440 pounds.
440 pounds.
And they continue to defend themselves, Mr. Congressman. You know that, right? They continue to defend themselves. We hope they continue onward because I don't think we can lose a race. This was one of the big reasons that we all won, and it's one of the big reasons that we had a record, a landslide like they haven't seen before, very often anyway. And who could forget last year's Paris Olympics where a male boxer stole the women's gold medal after brutalizing his female opponent so viciously that she had to forfeit just after 46 seconds, and she was a championship fighter. And actually, they had 2 women or 2 people that transitioned, and both of them won gold medals, and they won them very.
Now, that is a big part of it. We have to think about when they're taking them away from these women, not just women, but they're taking it away from these women in such a profound way. Now, if you do want to watch the rest of that, please go and watch the actual signing of the executive order that President Trump did. I thought it was very powerful and it was really sweet. And it's like 35, 40 minutes or something like that, where he actually sat down and did the signing. That part we're going to watch right now, but if you want to watch the whole speech that he had, it's really good, and go ahead and watch the rest of that. But real quick, we'll watch this little part of it.
Down front. Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you. If you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on.
Look at that. I'm sorry, but I think that's beautiful.
Secret Service is worried about them? If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, do you want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? You ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature, because this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Now,
pretty good,
did you hear that in the background?
Okay.
God bless you, President.
Now you're going to go out and win those events, right? Nice to see you all. Great going, everybody. Nice to see you. Thank you, kids. Here, take a pen. Thank you. I'll give some of these out, okay? Take a pen.
A little small thing about President Trump and those pens. I'm going to silence this while we watch real quick as he's handing out pens to everybody.
Where's Riley?
Oh, look at that. He specifically wants to make sure that Riley gets a pen. So I will say it's pretty cool. These athletes that are there and those girls. President Trump is making sure to give them all a pen. And that's another aspect of President Trump. So it's been traditional that they give away their pen that they sign their executive orders with. And that has been happening for a long, long time. Or if they sign a letter or they sign something, they give you the pen that goes with it. I actually have one of those pens. It's not from Donald Trump, but it's from someone else. But it's really cool when they give you one of those pens because you're gonna hold on to it. Now, traditionally, those pens were a lot of money, and they they cost a huge amount of money. I don't remember what they were, but he went to Sharpie and said, "Can you make these pens? And I want them really cheap." So he hands them out to everybody, and that's around when he does something. So can you imagine that scene? And it is so important that we remember that. We won't let men cheat our girls, he vowed, ditching gender ideology for women and men. The order acts as cis women and trans women, just women now. The critics say terms like biological female makes us a footnote in our own story, erasing women as we know it. Riley Gaines tweeted, "Gender insanity lost, common sense won." On Fox, she called Turner a heroine, tying it to her NCAA fight. Inclusion means excluding women. Does Gaines defend our legacy? Does Trump's order save women or redefine her? I think we have to remember that it is so important as to why this was done in the first place. Title IX was started in 1972. Women's sports soared from 2% to 43% of high school athletes. We've battled for scholarships, respect. 87% of us say sports builds leadership. That's our ground. That's what Riley Gaines said. Let's look at the stats for just a second. We have only 5 more minutes. 69% of America's back birth sex competition, and that was from Gallup. Turner and Gaines aren't outliers. Trans athletes, 0.35% of NCAA players, yet 15% of 2024 women's sports controversies. Physical edge, 17 to 30% more powerful post-transition. Fairness or biology? Erasure fear. Cis women, biological women. Are we the subcategory now? Yeah, you got to think about that. Trump's order says women is enough, but trans advocates cry exclusion. Are we losing the word and the win? Yeah, right now they're trying to erase both of them. The movement aims, and I mean the women for Title IX and fighting for this, it aims at 27 states limit trans athletes. Remember, back when she first started fighting this with the Biden regime was still in, only 10 states had gotten on board with it. Since Trump signed it, 27 states limit trans athletes. Trump's eyes, the 2028 Olympics, is this protecting women's spaces or rolling back inclusion to erase decades of progress? We have to remember, and he is really pushing that you will not be able to. And now the Olympics have said they will do a DNA test on all athletes. Turner's kneel, Gaines sues, Trump signs, women fighting for women. But if women blurs, do we lose what we have built? That is so important for us to think about. We have to be powerful and we have to come together. And women have to stand up and fight in even the small little places, from elementary school to high school to colleges to professional sports. How far have we come in women if women fade? Can we empower all of our women to stop the erasure of women? The power's in our hands. We have to remember that. Turner's knee, Gaines' fire, Trump's pen, it's women empowerment in real time. But erasure's the shadow we can't ignore. Our own voice on the strip, in the pool, at home. Tell us what women worth to you. Share below. Let's keep this alive. Next week, we are going to be talking about women's self-defense and a few other topics. Please stay fierce and become part of my tribe. Become part of the Gurl Tribe. Please join, like, subscribe, and share, and be a part of it. Remember that 43% of high school athletes are female, yet only 25% of the budget. We've fought for every dime. Spaces too. 69% favor birth sex categories, from up from 62% in 2021. The crowds with Turner and Gaines. Trans presence, we have to remember, is only 0.35%, and fewer than 10 in 500,000. But the tiny slice is a huge fight, because look at how many of the rewards they have gained how many accolades they have won, how many women have lost to them, even if it's a very small percentage, they have a higher ability of winning and beating the women. So we have to keep that in mind. It is really, really important for us to stand up to all of this and stand for women. We have to be the catalyst to it. We have to be the ones who join in the fight. We have to be the women who stand up against it. We have to be the ones who support Gaines, who support Turner, who support any other women that are standing up and falling and not falling for this fakeness that I see that's going. From knees to laws, women rise, share your fight, keep our women. We need to stay women, and we need to please fight for women. So please join me. I am here Monday through Friday from 7 to 8:30. I am possibly considering changing my time. If you have any thoughts on me changing my time, please submit that. You can join my Facebook group, Gurl TauX. You can message me. You can email us at tori@gurltaux.com. Or if you have a question for Dear Margaret, please email it to Dear Marge, DEARMARG @gurltaux.com, GURLTAUX, because we're going to talk about it here at Gurl TauX. And instead of doing my normal good night, I'm going to go ahead and end with playing that song that I made for Title IX, for women taking the fight back again.
Stronger than steel, we rise in the haze. No longer bound by the silent days. They can rewrite what's rightfully ours. We burn brighter with unyielding stars. No more corners where we'll shrink or bend. This is the time for a battle to mend. Lock our doors shut to what don't belong. The chorus of women, a breaking song. We're taking it back. pose in fear. Take a knee, take a stand, no divide. Together we rise, no need to hide. No need to hide. No need to hide.
Thank you for watching Gurl TauX live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see